You need to record as well. There we go.
I know. Getting it.
Yeah, I don't see the little box coming up on Zoom telling me I'm being recorded.
Well,
Mary, your hair is my favorite color. And if I had hair like that with this sweater on, I would be invisible almost.
okay. And welcome aboard, all you wonderful groomers, pet stylists, and canine cosmetologists. You found the Traveling Groomers podcast, where we discuss lessons learned from mobile and house call grooming. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Bear Anthony. Any moment now, we'll be joined by my co-host and friend, retired mobile groomer and educator extraordinaire, Mary Aquendo, and very likely a special guest to help us chat about all things grooming, grooming industry related, and just plain fun digressions that I will totally wrangle back to topic. Grab those travel mugs and climb aboard to see where today's topic will bring us. Let's roll.
Okay. So this is temporary color for right now. Once all the purple comes out, I'm thinking about doing something different.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I love
because I will have edited this, like, I don't know, a goddamn professional. By the way, Erica, I have a mouth on me. Mary, why are we talking about our hair?
That's right. You're gonna edit out.
Yes, because we're goddamn professionals.
Okay, so anyway,
Jesus.
our guest had made mention that she liked the color of my hair, and I'm thinking, well, this is like really temporary at this point too. I'm just waiting for you can even see the roots if you're watching.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of cool right now, but it's purple's got to go and something else will coming in for the trade show season next year. I don't know yet what.
Oh, the trade show season for me is like all the time. So I think I'm envious that you have a season.
Well,
it's a long season.
Okay, well, let's back up and do introductions, and then we'll explain why there's a season. So, Mary, who is our special guest for today?
It is Erica Messer. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. And Erica is the founder of Wolfies. Is it Wolfie or Wolfie?
Wolfie's Wish.
Wolfie's Wish.
Yeah.
And before you start telling us all about that, for us as groomers, our really busy season is like mid-November through end of December. So the holiday season is super busy for us.
Oh.
Because everybody wants to get their dogs freshened up for the holidays. So it doesn't really make sense to have conventions during that time, because everybody will be like, I have 1,003 dogs on my schedule. This isn't happening. I can't travel right now. So we take a break from, I say, mid-November to sometimes January, February.
So what we have in January, though, is the cruise.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the trade shows, the ones in person, begins in around February.
Every so often there's like a rogue trade show in January. Isn't the Whitman's having a show in January?
I take that back. We do have, it's not called Whitman's anymore.
Oh, okay.
I think it's called Windy City. Is a new trade show in the Chicago area in January. And all I can say is bless them, because Chicago in January, that is some diehard people.
Tell me you're from the Midwest without telling me you're from the Midwest, that you're willing to, it's only a 6-hour drive in February. That's like nothing. That's you're from that area.
Yeah.
Gonna be some frosty paws at that one.
Yup.
Yeah, no. If I'm going anywhere in January, the sun is shining and there's a beach involved.
Very good.
All right. So we actually had you on here for a reason. Okay.
Yes. It wasn't to talk about trade shows. We don't need reasons to talk about trade shows.
All right. So Chris, I'll let you take the lead.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So hi, Erica. As you can see, we are not the most structured podcast. I make attempts at structure, and when Mary finds out that there's structure, she does her best to derail it. So I haven't fully given
Which is
up.
why we're like 10 minutes in and we actually haven't discussed why you're here.
It's not a full 10 minutes.
I'm
It's
having a great time.
5
You guys
minutes
are
in.
entertaining. Oh, I'm loving it.
It's 5 minutes in. And before we even start that, because it's only 5 minutes in, lovely ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 237 of the Traveling Groomers podcast that was recorded on November 19th, a Sunday, and will be airing December 6th. So, Erica, we brought you on to discuss a topic that is not fun, but is
Right.
near and dear to my heart. And that is dealing with loss and grief surrounding pets.
Yeah.
And I was thrilled to find your organization and to find that they're vets who specialize in this, and to find that there is support groups for this, because I teach a class regarding this for groomers.
Great.
Since I think people recognize, and you recognize, all right, when an owner loses their pet, when a pet parent, or I'm not sure I love the phrase, but fur mom and dad, they lose a pet, they're losing a family member, and people generally get that they're upset. But this may be a pet that, as a groomer, you've seen every few weeks for 10 years.
Right.
So, or even if it's a year or two, you see them every couple of weeks, you know them, you know their family, you've sometimes seen the kids grow up. So there's deep senses of loss and grief for groomers, and it's not always as understood because it's, quote unquote, not our pets.
Right. Well, I mean, think about it. Let's just turn the tables for a second. If it was a babysitter of a family, right, and the child passed, we wouldn't need the babysitter to explain their grief. So why is it that things are complicated? No, I understand what you're saying, but in society,
get
we
it,
gotta
but yeah.
change this conversation about pet loss grief all around.
So I am very glad that we're working to change the conversation, all in all. So we've got a couple minutes until we have to take our first commercial break, because we just do chat and open in the beginning. So can you tell me briefly how you came about this? And then we
Yeah.
can go more in depth on everything that you do.
Sure. Well, and first of all, thank you for offering that kind of support for your colleagues. I think that's wonderful. And, you know, the pet sitter industry also has their own type of grief. And so it's kind of like all these little hushed circles that really it's time to just give a voice to anyone that's grieving the loss of a pet, whether it was yours or your neighbor's. It's okay. So I got into this because I was very confused about and conflicted over my own grief of losing Wolfgang. And it kind of blindsided me. But moreover, I couldn't find the support I needed, and I wasn't even sure what I needed. So I had to navigate this terrible freak accident that killed him suddenly. And I knew I wanted to be okay again. I knew I wanted to like love my life again. And so I had to just go through that. And my mom and I talked every day, and she said, you know, why don't you make the thing that you couldn't find? I was looking for like affirmation cards, something really simple. And so I resisted a lot because I didn't know how or whatever, but here we are. And Wolfie's Wish, yes, we started with affirmation cards, but now we have online support groups and coloring books and all kinds of things.
Wow, that is, and I think that is one of the more beautiful things that we can do when we lose someone in our lives, whether they're a pet, a person, a friend, anyone, is we can do something positive to pay homage to them.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think I had to. Chris, I was in such a dark place that if I didn't have something to focus on, I probably wasn't going to be okay. And so it actually just all culminated into the perfect storm, if you will. And yeah, I was given what I like to say is a choiceless choice to either make this mean something and do something about it, or I guess continue suffering, really, is how I feel like I was given that. And so now I love it. It's what I do. And just painting some pet portraits today. So it's definitely been a big change in the past 2 years, that's for sure.
Oh, wow. So there is totally even more to find out about with Wolfie's
Yeah.
Wish. So I'm gonna press my first button because the number tells me we're approximately 10 minutes in. So we'll get there. That was not the button. What if I told you you could have a year's worth of online education for less than the cost of one in-person trade show? That's right. For only $97 a month, you have access to a different 2-day educational conference with 10 hours of material taught by the best in the industry. Every month has a new theme that includes anything from grooming skills to business and everything in between. Can't catch it live or just want to rewatch it? Recordings are available for 6 weeks with closed captioning for both live and recordings with transcripts. What are you waiting for? Grab your membership today at positiveed.com.
I just want to make mention that this is December. This is airing in December. So the summit for Positive Ed is a private summit. It is not for sale. You have to be a member in order to attend the Wellness Summit.
Nice. All right.
All right. So I'm going to start off with a question. One of the things that kind of piqued my curiosity was coloring books.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit.
So right after Wolfgang passed, I was on vacation and I was keeping a little illustrated journal diary thing. And that turned into a book called Tales of Spirit Cats. And it's about, I would imagine Wolfgang with me on this vacation doing things, and it turned into like a silly but very therapeutic story. And I had a lot of feedback from it because I did publish it, and people really requested coloring books, especially for children. So I just modified it and made it into a coloring book, basically. So that's the first one. And then I'm working on a coloring book for adults with my affirmations as part of the book. So it kind of takes another level to it. So I really enjoy being creative. I've always been creative, and to apply it to something meaningful just makes it all the better.
Nice. So when you first, and I have some more questions about the pet portraits and the coloring, but what I'm really interested in as someone who's perhaps older than I look and dealing with my boomer parents and generation, what are some of the reactions you've had to this business when you tell people what you do? Like, what are some of the good reactions, and have you gotten negative reactions? Have you gotten people who just didn't get it?
That's a really interesting question. So I think, honestly, Chris, for a while, I wasn't really sure how to tell people what I did without it being awkward. So I had to kind of navigate that. And I did, and it needs to be short. Right? There's not a short answer to this. It's like, well, let me tell you about my cat that fell and died, and then this, and then that. So yeah, I basically I started going to say, well, I help pet parents grieve, and I would leave it there. And if they wanted to know more, great. If not, we move on and talk about, butterflies and coffee or whatever. And what I found was that everyone wanted to know more. Everyone. And they were like, well, what are you, a therapist? No, I'm not a therapist. Well, how do you do that then? And then I would explain like the products and services. And then they kept leaning in. And then they would say, so many times people say under their breath, I grieved the loss of my dog more than my parents. And they're looking for permission for that, from me. And so I found that there's this whole dialogue, there's this whole conversations people want to have and they don't know how or where, or they don't feel like they have permission. So it's actually been really great and not weird at all. Never had a negative reaction, never had anyone tell me I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing and go back to being a musician. So that keeps me, that means a lot, because I have my own doubts. I don't have an MBA. I don't know how to run a company. So I just learn as I go. So far, so good.
Well, that is awesome. So since you haven't had any negative reactions, I won't introduce you to my mother. I love her. I love her. She's fantastic. But when I told her about
Oh my God.
the class I was doing, and she was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, somebody told me their cat died once, and I said, I'm sorry, but I don't know. It's just a cat.
Oh no.
And I'm thinking, was that me? Was that my cat, Mom? Like, I had cats die growing up. What? Followed by the very real, is there something wrong here? Is there something I'm not getting? And not, no, my mother is a lovely, caring person. She's just been, as we make excuses, I think she's just been forced to be practical for too long. Certain things she doesn't get. So now that I've shared that bit of trauma, I'm still very glad that you haven't had to deal with any of that, because it is hard to deal with sometimes. And I'm going to leave it there. I could tell you stories.
Well, let's just put things in perspective though.
Wait,
Like your mom.
Mary, keep asking a question. I hear my dog got into treat she wasn't supposed to. I'll be right
Oh
back.
dear. Well, I was just gonna say
Found them.
that, even in my lifetime, our relationship with house pets has changed so much that, now we're having birthday parties for our dogs. But as a child, that would have been like super crazy. So I think it just, even in generations, it's changed a lot, where our animals are inside sleeping with us in the bed. So I think that's also still part of the mentality that society has, is that, well, it's just a pet, you chain it up outside. Like, how could you grieve that? Well, no, they're family. So it's just that the dynamic has changed about our relationship with animals, and it really extends beyond just cats and dogs. You can have any kind of pet. People don't talk about horse grief, for example, but grief is grief, and it doesn't matter the species.
Yeah.
When growing up, so I'm 60, so I grew up in the 60s. Okay. My grandmother was a German farm girl, literally first generation my mother was first generation. And so she grew up on a farm, and animals and dogs and cats were considered farm animals, not pets. She was mortified that our dog actually lived in our house.
Wow. Right? See, so there's just a huge change that's happened in the past, 50 years, 56 years?
Yeah.
My mother has been terrified. And I remember I've been grooming for a while now, when we had a recession. Mary, I want to say it was around the time of the Obama presidency. So either right before or right after that, we had a little recession, and I was already working as a groomer, and my mother was panicked because she already didn't understand that people pay money for me to do this, and I charge how much for what? And she was like, well, is this a good idea to be going on a vacation right now? Because my sister-in-law was taking us on a cruise, and she's like, well, be careful about what you spend, because I had no summer clothes, or I needed, because the first thing people are going to not stop spending money on is their pets. And I'm like,
Okay.
Mom,
So
that's actually the last thing they stop spending money on. I've had clients say they go without or stretch out their hair and nail appointments so they can still get their pets taken care of.
All right, so let's go back to the recession before that. Okay,
Uh-huh.
the bigger recession. Okay, and that was when I was literally a brand new mobile groomer. So you're talking early 2000s, maybe 2003, 4, somewhere in that time frame. My dealership, when I was bringing my van in to be serviced, the guy goes to me, "You're the only one making money." I was,
Wow.
yeah. The only clients I lost in that time frame was a couple of real estate agents,
Wow.
because the housing market literally crashed at that point too. And that was it. I didn't suffer. There was nothing on my bottom line that suffered. You know what? They were glad, because that means I had the money to get my van serviced. You
Right.
know, but I was putting the miles on it because I had clients. But yeah, no, the pet industry, people love their pets. And even during COVID, when things were so insane, people were getting more pets.
Right. More people adopted pets during the pandemic than any
Oh,
other
yeah.
time. You know, I'm sure you've heard of the stories of shelters being
Emptied.
emptied. And that's when I adopted Wolfgang, was during the pandemic. And I had to have someone drive me out to a farm on the outside of town. And he was this unwanted kitten with eye herpes. Yeah.
Mm.
Exceller, right? And he was him or his sister, and his sister was perfect. And my husband and I said, well, she's gonna get adopted. We've got to take him. And you know, I didn't have him very long. He died like 14 months later. But I think also that time of the pandemic, when we're bonding with our animals and our roommates or family or whoever we're stuck with, the relationship changed,
I
right?
like that. Who are we stuck with?
Who we're stuck with.
Stuck-
Oh,
Yeah, well, that's
yes.
what it was.
That's
higher now,
exactly what
higher.
it was.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. This is a great time to bacon breath as she had her treats. Hold that thought, Mary. We're going to talk about who else we're stuck with in 30 seconds. Handby engineering isn't just for mobile groomers. I have loved my Handby equipment for years before I even thought of getting a mobile van, and I wouldn't want to groom without my bathing beauty and hair vac. With every piece of equipment in their van and outside of it having its own QR code linked to troubleshooting tips and fixes, these low maintenance workhorses turn potential roadblocks into mere speed bumps. Check them out yourself at handby.com. You like how Una provided entertainment so people don't fast forward through commercials? See, that was on purpose. That wasn't noise in the background of the commercial. That was people watching.
You see, now my dog, who joins us for every single podcast, is nicely and asleep and quiet in my sweater.
Yeah, until your husband tries to come in.
Oh yeah,
Or there's like a bug farts out the window and he erupts from her sweater like a chest bursting alien.
I want
And
to see him. Oh.
no, he's
and
sleeping,
that's
so he's quiet. We'll
that's
get that at
happened.
some point.
Yeah, that's happened a couple times where the guests had no idea he was on there, and it kind of
Yeah, I didn't know.
little startling.
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
know,
exactly what it looks like, except there are teeth involved. So yeah, that was who we were stuck with, and it actually took a toll on the pet services community because a lot of groomers left at that time, a lot of groomers retired at that time, or just got burnt out. And by the way, not just groomers, vets too.
Oh yeah.
Because now there's more pets to deal with. And it was a hard time. I describe it as a year. It was a year of almost global grief because we were grieving the loss of normalcy and family members who may have died and we couldn't even go to a funeral. It was not a good year. So this is something we clung to even more is we clung to our pets.
Well, I'm curious to know, how does we'll talk about this after the show, but how your grief group runs. And if, I have a monthly support group, and anyone is welcome to come, regardless of whether they were, the pet sitter or dog walker or groomer. We have people that are anticipating their pet passing. They either have a senior dog or a senior cat or one that's ill. We've got people that have lost their beloved, soul cat 5 years ago. And it's a great supportive melting pot where we can all share and normalize pet loss grief, which is really what needs to happen. No one should be ashamed or have to explain what they're going through, especially to the non-pet owners. I think there needs to be some more education to step up and say, all right, I haven't experienced it, but you know what? I'm going to give you some paid time off. Just because you haven't had cancer doesn't mean you can't sympathize with that. And I'm sorry to use that example. My mom has had cancer twice. And why would we give anyone a hard time for being ill? Like, I don't know. Grief is an interesting thing, and everyone's afraid of it. Nobody wants to deal with it until we have to. And I'm included. I didn't want to talk about it or think about it. I got Wolfgang as a kitten, and I was like, yeah, sure thing. He's been with me 20 years. So.
And the problem is, it's one of those things that when we don't talk about it, when it happens to us and we don't deal with it, it becomes like an infection.
Yeah.
It's almost like if you have not a headache enough to be called like a headache, but just like a low level headache, that where it's just that annoying pain, not like serious. It's enough that you can kind of forget it's there. But at the end of the day, you're crabbier, you're shorter tempered, you have less patience because you've been dealing with that little teeny annoyance headache. So to me, that is what it becomes a lot of the time, because we are suppressing it. And it's kind of like this little infection that doesn't go away because we're not dealing with it. And I think it contributes a lot to groomer burnout because it's just another emotional strain that is put on top of our already physical strain. And we don't talk about it. We don't deal with it. And it just gets to be a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's also not included in your training. It's like when we're in high school or college, there are no courses on how to cope with grief and loss. I don't know why. It's a part of life. But it's important to find a way through it. And I think a lot of people put a lid on it because it's so painful and they don't know what else to do. And that's okay. But there is help available. And that's really what Wolfie's Wish is about, is providing resources and pointing you in the right direction for what you feel inclined would be helpful. So if you go to wolfieswish.com, we have a whole resources page with YouTube interviews where I interview pet loss professionals. There's a blog. There's, phone numbers to counselors, book recommendations. I mean, I don't need to spell it all out. If anyone's interested, you can go there. But yeah, I do pet portraiture too. I love that. We have the grief group. I do healing harp playlists. I do monthly memorials. Like, I cannot think of enough ideas to help people grieve. If I haven't found a solution for you, then I don't know what to say. So I go everywhere. I look under every nook and cranny and try to, be creative and at least get people to start looking for, just opening the door to their grief and finding a way to walk through it.
And, you make a good point that like, this is not taught how to deal with in schools until a student dies, and then they pull in all the grief counselors for the students.
Right.
And then even still, that's not mandatory for the students to attend. It's just for those who feel the need to do so.
Right.
And it wasn't always that way.
Right.
And it wasn't always that way. Okay. My mom tells a story about when I was in grammar school, and I don't even remember this, thankfully, but one of the teachers, and I guess it wasn't really talked about because it was gossip that was going around, because I forget who it was, if it was a teacher or a teacher's spouse or someone committed suicide.
Oh, gosh.
So it was one of those well-kept secrets. So this was probably late 70s, early 80s. Probably, yeah, really, yeah, either really late 70s, right around 1980, because I was young enough to articulate the following to my mother, but I can't remember it happening. And she said, I went home and told her, well, I guess it makes sense if you just don't want to go on it. Everything just hurts too bad. And she was terrified that this child would come out with that because we weren't talking about it, because it was a well-kept secret. So that's how my kid brain processed it. Like, oh, okay, hurts too much, just stop. And that was not healthy. So yeah, they didn't used to talk about such things. So in a past episode where we also went into generational trauma, I'm going to blame the time of year. We said, every generation tries to be a little bit better than the one before us, and that we try to improve ourselves as people. So I think that is also what we're trying to do with pet loss. And all right, Mary, fine. We've been talking a lot about our class offerings and educational things, and she's been giving me tips, and I'm like, okay, fine. My class needs to be completely. So now I got to revamp all of my classes so that they're fresh, and make sure I keep offering things and talk about this. Because every time I've given this class, actually the last time I gave it, it was, I forget if it was the grief class or a burnout class, but it was like 8 a.m. on a Sunday or something, like early on a Sunday morning. And there was like 7 people in the class. And I went, I could choose to be disappointed at the low attendance, or I could go, if you're here this early for this class, we need to talk. You need this. We need to talk about these things. So that to me is a big deal, just being able to talk about these things. And I want to be able to reach the young groomers and say, look, this is going to happen. You're going to get upset about these things. You're going to get attached. And I also need to find better language than upset, because that, like, as I say it, I feel like it diminishes the grief a little bit. So yeah, we all have to do work.
Maybe talk to both of the big trade show directors about doing a roundtable on it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the PAC for short, we just did a grief webinar. And so I think that having specialized classes is now becoming more common. And, I appreciate you giving voice to this, because I can't carry this message, as far as it needs to go. And that's why I do podcasts, because there are solutions, and I want people to know that, even if they hear one of these episodes for like a nanosecond and say, oh, I don't want to deal with that now. Just know that when you have that emergency of grief, or like you need solutions, just go to Wolfie's Wish. I like to tell people, just put it in your kitchen drawer, just write it down, put it away until you need it. Because I didn't want to talk about this stuff. I didn't want to think about any of my pets passing, but it happens. And we think we're going to be ready, and we're never ready.
And I apologize. I'm going to hit another button because it's time. But my dog is usually hanging out with us when we record. And Mary, when's the last time you saw me have to get up and say, hey, get out of that? I think it was once in the past 2 years. And today she's like turning on my bathing beauty. She's getting into the treats that the cat knocked down and left for her. She's getting into everything. So I'm going to push a button, and I'll be back in 30 seconds. I've been swiveling for years now with my evolution shears, but I wasn't actually born with a pair of swivel shears in my hands. Check out our website and Facebook page for our library of how-to videos, or give me a shout for a personalized guide. Your hands will thank you. Don't forget, Traveling Groomers podcast listeners get $10 off and free shipping with the code on the road, all one word. What are you waiting for? Give them a try today.
Okay, before Chris gets started again, I'm gonna ask another question. Trade shows. You mentioned there's like year-round trade shows. I mean, continually throughout the year. So I've always said, I don't care what industry you are in, you guys have a trade show.
Mhm.
Okay. My daughter was making mention about, she thought she wanted to go into landscaping. And I'm like, well, why don't you go to a convention? And she's like, what? Yeah. Just Google landscape conventions or garden conventions. And she pulled up an entire list, one of which was in her hometown in Georgia. And it's like, there you go.
Yep. Yeah.
There's a tattoo convention that's not far from me, and it's really fun.
I love trade shows and I love conventions. And so I go to everything from Super Zoo. I was at Groomed last year. I go to the veterinary ones. I go to the crematory ones. I go to the retail ones. There's just always a trade show. And they're a blast. It's so great connecting with people.
Well,
It's
Chris and I
fun.
will be at Groomed, by the way.
Yes, I will be both at Groomed and hopefully Super Zoo. Well, you'll
well,
definitely be at Super
I'm
Zoo.
definitely at Super Zoo.
I'm hopefully at Super Zoo. So why don't we, if you're thinking of being at Super Zoo, why don't we say, hey, that could be a good panel. That could be a good panel discussion.
All right. So do you
Write
want
that
to
down.
email Janelle or should I?
Yes. Yeah, why don't you? Why don't you?
Okay.
You put
All right.
enough on my to-do list. I like to
Okay.
throw stuff back every now and then.
Well, don't put up posts. Well, you know what? I've got some free time.
No, that's not what the post said. All right, Erica, let's be clear. I'm going to pull this up because now she's just being ridiculous, because that's not
Tell
what
me
I
you
said.
have some free time.
No.
Throw something on your plate.
What I said, I'm reading it because I want to be clear.
Okay.
I don't have a podcast waiting for me to edit it. It's a very odd feeling. I would be at 6s and 7s if I didn't remember the 99 other projects that needed attending to immediately.
Okay. Well, she wasn't doing something, so that therefore she had
So I
room.
had a second to breathe. So Mary put something else on my to-do list.
Okay. But was that not something you should be doing?
Yes.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
All right.
know
See, I
about
made a heart
virtual-
with it, Mary. So it's all okay.
Oh no. I feel like I need to introduce you guys to Fiverr and virtual assisting. It is a lifesaver.
Oh no, I already have a virtual assistant.
Okay, well,
I know my boundaries and I know what I can and cannot do. Okay. But
Yeah.
Chris, I am only looking out for you. I
know you are. I know. And that's why it made a heart, Mary. That's why it made a heart.
have your best interests at heart.
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
I've been yelling at her for years. Maybe she ought to think about getting a virtual assistant to maybe take care of some of those things that, doesn't actually require her immediate attention. Just saying.
I'm not sure what those things would be.
Okay.
That's
okay.
the problem.
All right.
I'm a control enthusiast here.
Okay. So I don't know. I'm going to be testing it out, but I just picked up on AppSumo because, AppSumo has Black Friday specials. So I picked up something called Resound. And apparently it's going to take my podcast, which I don't edit because, there's 24 hours in a day. And if I wanted that edited, it would mean I would have to hire somebody to do that. Okay. I've got the other podcast. You take care of the traveling groomers. I have women petpreneurs. So for $50, I got Resound. And the theory is I just upload it to it. And Chris, it takes out all the pauses and all the ums and stuff.
But can you program what are the crutch words? Okay, all right. Because your crutch words aren't always ums.
All right, well, probably. I don't know. I haven't
We'll
played around
find
with it.
out.
I'll find out, but it cost me $50.
Okay.
Okay. Just
I-
saying.
By the way, Erica, in case you didn't notice, Mary and I are not at, oh,
There's
see, there we go.
Pooh.
There's
Pooh.
Pooh.
I know you're a good boy. You're a good boy. Yes.
See, Mary and I were clearly related in a past life, and it were whoever runs these things was wise enough not to make us actually related in this life, because we both love each other, and I think we would like die with hands locked around each other's throats, because I know I annoy the piss out of her too.
Definitely either sisters or brothers, and
Yeah.
either sisters or either brothers, not
Yeah.
one sister, one brother.
No.
The amount of we would be having fist fights. I saw
Oh my God,
brothers.
brothers. No, it was definitely brothers, because I could see us physically like beating the tar out of each other and then just going having a drink afterwards. I'm like,
Okay, so my two
kind of
brothers.
deserve that. Yeah, I kind of did.
So my father was a mechanic. My brothers were a mechanic. So we were that neighbor that had always had the broken down car in the driveway, always. And one of my neighbors was a God-fearing Christian woman who would quote the Bible at you, all right, who lived on the other side of the fence. And my two brothers, all right, would be fixing a car, and the next thing you know, they're hitting each other with, I don't know, wrenches and rolling on the ground, cursing. Oh my God, the language that came out of my brother's languages, even to this day, all right, Chris, could make you blush. Okay.
Could make me blush.
Could make you blush.
I have strings of curses that I am saving for when I needed to quit a job and burn a bridge, like napalm the bridge.
Okay.
I'll tell you when we don't record.
And then that poor woman is sitting outside in her garden listening to my brothers. But anyway.
I will tell you when we stop recording. And actually I did use it once, but I used it on the wrong person, because she just laughed her ass off.
Oh.
She was laughing at me already, and then she laughed her ass off, and it actually helped take my anger down a notch. And I just started laughing. I'm like, hey, you're an asshole anyway. We still love each other. So
Well,
it helped anyway.
For after the recording.
Oh yes. All right. So anyway, topic.
I don't know. This is not a G-rated podcast.
No, well,
no,
just let's just say
maybe on the next show. Maybe if you have me back.
Let's just say no.
So we're gonna get asked. There's gonna be questions underneath the podcast.
That's fine. And what I will do is I will say, all right, fine. Y'all really want this? I would like to not be a bridesmaid. For those of you who are just listening, I am motioning to all the Barkley Honors nominations, but the sad lack of actual Barkley Honors awards. So, okay.
Hold on a second. We got an entire list there too here.
Yeah. So, all right. You really want this?
We are the Susan Lucci's of the group.
Yes. Yeah, we are.
And if you don't know who Susan Lucci is, we're not going to tell you. You need to Google
You're
that.
too young. Google it. Anyway, topic.
You guys are funny.
So,
which is how we know we were brothers in a past life.
Yeah.
I'm glad you have your own show. That's all I'm thinking to myself is I'm so glad you decided to do this,
because I honestly, and I'm
this is all Chris's fault too. Okay. This is why this podcast is here, because the first podcast I did was called Women Petpreneurs. And she was like, I don't know, the third guest on it. And then she texts me afterwards. Hey, okay. We should do a podcast, or why isn't there a podcast on mobile grooming and house call? And I'm like, well, that's a good idea. Here's your checklist. Let's go.
And I didn't know Mary then the way I know her now. Now I know that if I bring up an idea to Mary, I best be prepared for her to have 5 steps for me and her to give me a checklist. And if she thinks it's a really good idea, she is going to ride my ass in a loving but not loving like that manner until I do it. and get it done. Yes. Until yes. In a completely non-sexual manner. But anyway, I'm pretty sure it's time to hit a button. So I'm going to do that. So then we can get back on topic because it's a fun digression. I love being a house call groomer, but I hate doing laundry or worrying about asking my clients for fresh towels. Raypet has solved those problems for me with the Wet Pet disposable towel, taking up much less space than traditional cotton towels and easy to wring out and reuse. These super soft, comfy, absorbent towels eliminate any cross-contamination concerns between pets. And now their new smaller washcloth size can even help those sensitive eye areas. Great for cleaning out wrinkles gently and thoroughly. Need to keep water bowls for your clients on hand that are easy to disinfect, but hate all the room traditional clanky metal bowls take up? Or just have a very active pet? Their collapsible silicone bowl comes with an aluminum D-ring hook that can be attached to your pet's leash or anywhere else in your van for easy storage. You can get one by itself or in their handy travel kit, along with a set of 3 tick removers and 1 small wet pet towel. So stop by their website to check it out, raypet.net, and tell them the Traveling Groomer sent you. I'm working on my next checklist, Mary, just so you know. Okay. So
I'm the
back
queen,
to topic.
I'm the queen of checklists.
So
right.
what type of, and have you gotten a chance to speak or have a booth at any of these trade shows that you go to? Like, is there something at a veterinary trade show? Because I would love, I did it to myself again. We just talked about not doing this in front of Mary. I would love to be able to go to a veterinary trade show to maybe be able to speak in a round table because I really want
here's
to increase
the
the
thing.
dialogue.
So we are doing a roundtable at Groomed with Dr. Callie. We love Dr. Callie. Dr. Callie was on Pooch Perfect. She actually does do veterinarian conferences. So my thought is that since she's going to be in an enclosed area with us,
We'll say we need to do this at a veterinary conference.
we need to do this at a veterinarian conference, whether it is discussing the roles between groomers and veterinarians, but also possibly discussing the whole grief with the veterinarians as well too, because you know what, I would be really surprised if at veterinarian conferences there isn't some speaker there talking about grief, because veterinarians have like the highest suicide rate of any industry.
Yeah. Well, what I do know is that, you know, they're not grief counselors, and yet they're the first person the customer sees on, or the last. And yet they, you know, in 5 minutes, they have to go give puppy new shots. Like the hats that they have to wear and running a business. My heart goes out to every veterinarian or every person that is choosing that as a career, because I think it's one of the hardest and most difficult jobs when you have to, you know, put an animal down and then keep going with your day. I don't know how they do it. But anyway, that's one of the reasons that I'm trying to step up and get into the veterinary industry, is to relieve them of that extra burden. I mean, they do what they do because they love it and they're happy to be there and support you, but they can't hold your hand the rest of the day. But I can. I mean, not me, but like Wolfie's Wish and what we offer. We want to be there to support you for the emotional part. They're there for the scientific part, right? They've got to administer this medicine and do it in the right way. But yeah, the trade shows, that I was wondering if we were at Super Zoo the same time. Were you guys there in 2022? So it was last year. Yeah, that's where we went. We went there like literally last minute, and then won a Best New Product Award as a new exhibitor. It was insane. I got under my booth and cried. I tell that story all the time. And I didn't go this year because I was on a tour of conferences. It was just too much, but I do want to go back next year and maybe even play harp at there. That was one of the things I got to do at the conferences this past summer, was play harp. So there was like a virtual memorial and a slideshow. Anyway, now I'm getting off topic, but
Okay,
what was
no,
your-
everything, when your tagline is we digress, everything can be related back to topic. So do you have, and I hope that I both want this to exist and hope that you don't have this, because if you have this and it exists already, it will show I did gross negligence in going through your website properly. Do you have any tracks or music available? Like,
Yeah,
my thought is to combine harp music with the sound of cats purring or puppies playing.
oh, that's nice.
Well,
Right
there's-
now,
The bag
Right
of
now
treats that was under the tub she found.
it's gone.
right.
Right
Yep.
now I've got
Go ahead.
healing harp music. So I found it being very helpful to me, just any kind of Zen music during my grieving process, anything to relax me or just kind of get me to sit still. So I started recording and putting up my own music on YouTube. And you guys talk about checklists. So I want to publish my original music and have it available to stream through Spotify and like all the major outlets. So that's my to do for 2024 is really get it to a broader audience rather than just YouTube. But it's there. It's a good starting place.
Nice.
Yeah, but I love the kitten purring on top of it. That's really cool. I have to find some copyright-free kitten purrs. Oh, I have 3 cats.
I was gonna say, I also have a recording I can send you, a recording or two.
Okay. I
But
know it's
yeah.
not copyrighted, but it's cute.
No. But yeah, and I actually have a track. Mary, did I ever get you that track of the
Cats purring. You know
No,
what?
I had a sound bowl where I was playing the singing bowls and had a cat purring in the background. Did I
Oh.
ever get you that? I was supposed to.
You know what? I am not certain. The only thing is too, right? I mean, I'm sending Janelle, I just sent her a text. That's the easiest way.
I think there's a podcast called Purrcast, and it's just all cats purring. I'm pretty sure I listened to that a lot last year. Either that or it's a YouTube channel and it's all cats, like different cats. This person goes around and just like puts a microphone up to them and records purring. It's awesome.
All right.
Okay, there is a podcast called The Purrcast, but it's not just cats purring.
Okay.
Okay, they're talking to cat people because they can't talk to their cats, and frankly, I think that shows a lack of imagination.
Well, thank you for fact checking. I know that there's a lot of recordings of purring, and yes, there's a Purrcast, and those
Yeah.
things.
Hey, listen,
okay.
we do the heavy work for everybody else. We will
Yes.
Google on this podcast
Because we
live
know
Googling.
that if you're blow drying a dog or you're working with a dog, you might not be able to Google right at that moment because it's not safe. Don't do it. But we also know that if you have spicy squirrel brain and we mention something like that, you're going to want to Google it immediately because I want to Google it immediately. So you're welcome. Do that for the safety of the dogs.
Oh, can I tell you about something that I would love for people to know and then come
Yes.
back to or remember? So, my colleague and I wrote anticipatory grief cards because we learned that there are so many people that have senior pets that are going to have to face these decisions. And it was like, oh, here's a whole niche. So now I'm talking to you and I'm thinking about all of your listeners that are grooming senior pets and are knowing that those owners and themselves are going to have to go through that time of saying goodbye, which is just awful. That's just such a heavy thing to know, right? That you've got weeks, months, you're not really sure. So anyway, we've got a free sample of those you can download and print out and see if you like this whole idea of affirmation cards. But that's a new thing, and I feel like people can just remember. I don't know. I feel like Wolfie's Wish is the worst name to try to remember. I don't know why my mom picked Wolfie's Wish, but yeah, for the people that are driving or you can't use your hands, bookmark us later, or it'll be in the podcast link at least.
Yeah, Mary will put it on the when she sends it out on Facebook. She'll put it in the podcast link, right, Mary?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
As long as I get the link. So
www. You can
Wolfie's
Google
Wish.
it.
That's right.
It's
Let's do some live Googling. Hold on. I've got like 18 tabs open on my phone, my
Oh my
computer.
goodness.
Only 18.
Wolfie's Wish.
Can't tell you how many tabs are open just on my phone. Let's find out.
But I'm all about providing solutions to things. And in fact, if anyone's listening and they have ideas, or there's an area that needs to be addressed about grief and grooming or client relations, like, please reach out and let me help you find a solution or bring something to the table. It's really what I love to do more than anything.
Okay, so I'm up on your website.
See, there you go, Mary. You have it.
1, 2, you have this in 5 languages.
Yeah.
Okay. International. Okay. You have a membership. You have blog resources and shopping.
And what I actually like about the anticipatory cards, the cards you get ready to do in advance, is I find that I can think of the things well before or well after. But when the time comes to actually send it, I'm like, nothing. I'm blubbering. I'm upset. It's not in my head. No, I can't think of anything. So
yeah, it's hard to know. It's hard to think straight and use, our cognitive functions when we're in an emotional state.
yeah.
So that's why I tell people, if you don't want to talk about or learn about or even think about pet loss grief, don't until you have to, but write our name down somewhere. I should give out magnets to say, like, okay, put this on your fridge in your garage, and then when you need us, we'll be there.
Because I think magnets is a really good idea, because nobody ever throws away a magnet.
Magnet,
You know when the
right.
last time I threw away magnets, Chris, was?
When, Mary?
Well, actually, 4 years ago, when I was removing them off my refrigerator in Connecticut and moving to Washington, because they were like pizza delivery, all sorts of local stuff. Okay. The magnets I did not toss were the ones my grandkids made in art class or whatever. Okay.
Well, you're contractually obligated to kind of put those in the coffin with you, aren't you?
I believe so.
Okay. Like, you can't throw those out.
I mean, can you truly throw? I mean, I tried when I moved to get my kids to take all the stuff like they made me over the years. You should. This is memories for your kids now. You should take them. And they're like, we're not taking any more shit in our house anymore. So I still have a load of stuff that my kids made me that I'm sure when I'm dead and my kids are going through the house, they will probably then toss it at that point.
But there'll be a lot of magnets.
There'll be a lot of
magnets in there,
So I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge something and say this episode may seem like it's a whole lot of digression. And for a guest, like normally when we have guests, we're much better at staying on topic. But I'm going to say that the digression on this episode is 100% for a completely logical and maybe Karina will correct me if I'm wrong, possibly scientific reason. And that is, if we sat here for an hour and just discussed grief and loss and how it affects burnout and how it makes us feel, it might not be the most uplifting podcast that you would want to listen to, or even one that you would want to listen to. So what we're doing is giving our brains a break and allowing us to process this information by it not being an hour of heavy, oh my God, sad. Because one of the things I've definitely noticed is when you go through the stages of grief, as it were, and you're in that state where you don't ever want another pet. It's not until you start pulling yourself out or move on or do something positive with your pet's memory that you start remembering the joy that they brought you, and that we grieve because we loved so much, and that this is a part of love. So we lighten it for that, because that's when the parents who go, I'm never getting another pet, they'll call you up and be like, can you squeeze in a puppy?
Right.
I'm not sure what happened, but puppy.
You're absolutely right. And, everybody needs a different amount of time. And for me, I knew I wanted more cats. I can't get my husband to let me get a dog. So I have 3 cats. But I waited a couple of months until I was ready, because we do have to open our hearts again, right? To give and receive and take care of them without a lot of pain. And it's interesting. What you just said ended up being on 2 of my affirmation cards. One is remember the joy. And the backside says, for every painful memory or feeling that comes up, I'm going to follow it with a happy memory or joyful experience. So you're balancing out the inevitable, which is, I don't have my pet and my life sucks. With, wait a minute, what are my favorite memories? And so you're kind of like, it's this counterweight. And the other one was, I loved my pet with all my heart. And the backside says, the amount of pain I feel is equal to the love that I gave. And so these sayings are what I wrote to help myself, to give myself permission to grieve, to give myself permission to just freak out. And yet I knew that with all of them, I was feeling like a sense of buoyancy and knowing that, okay, I think I'm going to be okay. But I actually got professional help just to make sure. I was like, I really want to go. I'm young. I really want to live the rest of my life like full out. I don't want to be walking around carrying a bag of grief with me. How do I get through this? And that's hard work. And I think anyone can do it, especially if I did it, but we can't all do it right away. Sometimes it's years later, and that's okay too.
Yeah. And what I found, and this could just be the way I look at it, is that we always, all of us, carry around a bag of grief with us. The difference is how heavy it is at that moment. Because there's times where, whether it's like a family member, and I knew I wasn't going to get through this episode without getting verklempt, but like there are times with family members and pets where I'm fine and it's light as a feather, that bag we're carrying around, but something happens and I get a memory and just for like a couple minutes, it's heavy again and you feel it. But you need to feel it and acknowledge that it's there.
Yeah.
And then you can lighten it up again.
Yeah. Well, I think also, like, I like to call them grief storms. So when you're in the early stages of grief, you're crying all the time, and it's good, it's healthy, it's normal. But even as time goes on, I still get attacked by what I call grief storms. And the best thing I can do is surrender to them, excuse myself, go somewhere, have a moment, because then it passes. But if I fight it, I knew that if I fought those feelings and like pushed them down, like, no, I'm not going to cry, I'm in a meeting. That was going to be I was going to pay for that later, and I didn't know how. So I'm giving people permission to cry in the car right now or on a walk. and we can't control when those come. That's the frustrating part, right? We can't
I
just
know.
put a nice little window in our calendar at 4:55 we're going to grieve. No, man, no, it comes whenever we're least expecting it, and it's okay. It's not going to kill us.
Okay. Although this hack, I found a hack that may or may not work, depending. If like you say, you have something coming up and you're worried you're going to have a grief storm during this, before that, watch like Bridge to Terabithia or something.
Okay.
Watch Old Yeller, watch some movie that is going to just send you in the fetal position for like a half hour.
Yeah.
And just use that and write it and go get it out, and then put the cold compresses on your eyes and go, okay, sometimes it works. And then you're like,
really
okay,
good.
I've cried enough for about 3 months to a year. So I think I can now get through this event.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to have to write a blog on it. It's brilliant.
Because, and have you ever seen the movie Bridge to Terabithia?
No, but I've seen Old Yeller.
Okay. Old Yeller was going to be did I mention it or just think I was going to say it out loud? But, okay. No, I say then it's perfect to test this theory, watch Bridge to Terabithia, because I read the book when I was a kid and I didn't fully get it.
Yeah.
But the author wrote it for their child who lost a friend, to like explain death and loss.
Okay.
And I watched it and I'm thinking, I know what this is about. I'm going to be fine. But there's a part at the end with the dog, and the dog's fine. The dog lives. But there's something with the dog, and I just lost all of my shit I've ever had in my life. I'm thinking about it, losing my shit. So it's a good one if you want to induce a storm so in a controlled environment.
Yeah, I get that.
And I
have to say, well, thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Thank you for being so vulnerable with us. But also, as we're coming up to the holidays, and there's a lot of parties and social engagements and pressure and family and friends, it is totally okay to RSVP. Hell no, I am not going. I am not okay.
Okay.
You don't even have to use you can do it the polite way.
Yes,
right?
yes. Like, I have another engagement. Okay, so
but dude,
hold that thought, because we have our last commercial break, and that reminded me that was actually one of the things I had listed to ask you. So hang on, let me find that very last button and go, what was it? And we'll be right back. And speaking of continuing education, because we either were or will be, join the Andis world-class education team each month for live interactive virtual classes. You'll learn new and trending styles, as well as tips and tricks from some of the best groomers in the industry. Whether you're looking for basic skills, trending styles, advanced techniques, or even just ways to spark your creativity, the new Andis grooming education site is your source for finding what you need to create your way for success. Try new techniques, learn from the pros, and grow your confidence today at andis.com/groomer education. Traveling Groomer podcast listeners, hey, that's you, can get 25% off your first course today with the code VEGROOMING at checkout on andis.com/groomer education. So yeah, the professional part of me says that I do that because it then gives my audience permission to cry. But the truth is, all of my strong emotions, happy, sad, and anger is the worst, shoot out of my eyeballs in the form of water. And I decided a long time ago I could spend so much emotional energy stopping that and bottling that up and conforming, or I could just be me. And if someone had a problem with it, they could just, no, don't say fuck directly off. That's not professional. They could just, get over it. or not deal with me.
I am like the polar opposite of Chris.
Yes. Yes.
I'm as stoic as they come. I would have to make an effort to cry. All right. There would have to be like, I have to cry. So I would have to schedule it, Chris, in my planner.
Okay.
I'm telling you,
4:55
watch.
PM.
Have you watched Bridge to Terabithia?
Me? No.
Okay, I challenge you. Watch it. If the bit at the end with the dog and the truck and the dad, I don't want to give
And
away
listen,
too much.
if it's a
If that
movie,
doesn't make you cry, you're a stone. You're like a block of marble, and I can't,
I'm still not going to cry on a podcast.
Oh no, that's fine. And that's okay. And that's part of what people need to understand about how they grieve. You
Yep.
don't have to grieve by crying and not caring if you cry in public or being upset. If that's not you, if that's not how you process emotions, everybody is going to be different. And just because someone's not crying doesn't mean they're not in intense pain.
Right. Right. Grief is a very personal journey. And I shared a little bit before how surprised I was at my symptoms, which I just thought I was losing my mind. I was forgetting things. I was angry. I was yelling at tourists. I mean, I was completely scared and overwhelmed. And that's why I think it's totally okay for people to check in with a professional. A professional counselor administers our support group. I just host it. And so you can ask questions, you can meet with them one-on-one. I think it's a great way to bounce things off if people are having really strange or acute symptoms. But yeah, back to the holidays, dude, you don't have to go.
And the holidays are a trigger for all of the things. It's, there are people who go through, we kind of know when you've lost a person close to you that any holiday is close and is a trigger. I mean, depending on how you did things, Earth Day could be a trigger because the person you lost, like you two always went out and bought a plant or planted a flower or that could be a trigger. But when it's a time for family, it's worse. And pets are a part of our family. And even when we're the pet professionals dealing with them, it's I don't have to worry about Fluffy's particular Christmas bows this year because Fluffy's not here this year, or I'm not seeing this person, or I'm not seeing that client. And it can be a really, really triggering time. So I know this seems like an odd choice and a darkish episode to put up beginning of December, but we need you to know that you're not alone. You're okay. However it is, whatever it is you're doing. What are you doing, Missy? I swear she's just determined to provide comic relief or something this episode.
Well,
she's
we
just-
need it. We need it. We're talking about heavy
Right?
stuff.
I've got files she's digging through. There never has been food there. She's just a
Well,
wackadoo
apparently
today.
she's starving, Chris.
Oh,
Yeah, apparently. Come here. Let me show you. Let me show them how starving you are.
All right, just on another note before, because we're going to be ending up pretty soon. So I did put up a trade show calendar on my website. I am creating, and it might be on my website by the time this airs, maybe, but I'm creating a downloadable digital camera, which I will update on a monthly basis, but that would mean every month then you would have to re-download with the new information. But I'm creating a trade show calendar that not only has the in-person trade shows, it'll have the cruises, it'll have, why is there a thumb on did you see that, Chris?
I saw it.
I did.
You were doing that. I thought you were doing it.
I thought you were doing that.
I had no idea. For those who are watching, we have a mystery because all of a sudden a thumbs up thing appeared.
Like Erica, I thought you did that before.
Dude, my hands are I don't know what it is. I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay, thumbs up. Yep.
Association events. So not just some speaker coming into any grooming shop in an area. I mean, if an association is putting on an event, that'll go up on the calendar, Chris, so you know.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out what that was and make it do it again, and it's not.
I don't know. So now we're gonna have to figure that out afterwards and play around. How did that happen? And online positive ed, of course, will have the summits on there as well too, but it'll again be, I'm putting in as they come in and as dates are finalized, but I'm looking for it to be a really, really complete calendar, meaning international. Okay.
Oh, nice.
So, hopefully by the time this airs, that might be ready on my website. If not, give it a week or two. But anyway, okay. Back.
And since we're almost done, I have to tell you guys that Groomed was one of my best shows, and I have people that call back and reorder because they love to gift our affirmation decks to their customers. And these are brand new. These are the miniature decks. They're only $2. So if you are listening and you've got some clients that have senior pets, I mean, it is such a nice gift and gesture to give them something helpful that they can take home and read on their own. To help them with the grief. I mean, this is the first product of its kind, and those are available on our website. But if anybody, even if you just refer someone to Wolfie's Wish to come to our support group, you're doing so much more than the groomer next door. Or, I mean, it's not a competition, but you care about your customers.
But
you want them to come back when they get their puppy,
right?
So
And
take extra care of them.
That makes you stand out from
Right.
the groomer down the road. I mean, their haircuts may be just as good. Their haircuts may be that much better. We're not talking about that. But if you deeply care for their pet with them, that is what they want.
That's what we all want.
Hold on a second. I think it does it. Says it.
No, I tried that. No.
Yeah, we're trying up because I'm Googling it.
No, I clicked on reactions, recognize hand gestures. It didn't. Oh, wait.
Says
Erica, you're doing it.
Yeah, but that's in the reactions tab. She had some cool like thought bubble that led to a thumb. It was really neat.
Okay. I'm not even seeing how that is even an reaction.
I've never seen it before.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Guys, if you're just listening and not watching, I apologize, but this is a mystery that
we're playing around with this.
Will remain unsolved. But as we need to wrap up, and Mary is just now waving at the screen randomly. So is there anything else that you really, really wanted to say? And hopefully we'll see you at Groomed again this year, because we'll both be there.
Just want to thank you for giving the space to have this conversation and digress into all the fun stuff too, that anyone can heal from pet loss grief. It's not the end of the world. It'll feel like it, but it's not.
Awesome. It's not. And remember, your pets really did love you, and they really do want you to be happy. So remember the joyous bits for them if you can't do it for yourself. And that includes your clients' pets. And by the way, if your client's pets was an asshole who tried to swallow your soul every time you groomed them and, peed on you and tried to eat you alive, it's okay if you're not sad. It's also okay if you're not sad for that one. Maybe not be happy, but it's okay if you're not sad. Anyway. All right, guys. Thank you for coming aboard. Thank you, all of you. And I almost said in Radio Land because I'm that old. All right. Safe travels out there, guys. Well, that was fun. But now it's time to head home. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed chatting with you. If there are any topics you'd like us to discuss or guests you want to see join us on this crazy road trip of ours, let us know in the Traveling Groomers Facebook page. Don't forget to thank our sponsors. And see you next week, guys. Safe travels.